Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, and welcome into another edition of another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here at the Ponderosa. We are here again today. I am over COVID. I did test negative Tuesday and was happy to get back to the radio with Jeff, and we're doing the show all week. So we haven't been on very much, but yeah, you know, it's over. And that's the main thing. We do have a good show for you today. Billy Hinson, former member of the Great Wall of Florida, will be joining us. Billy lives over in Fleming Island now, and really interesting stuff to talk about with him. I'm looking forward to that. On Monday, because Coach Spurrier will not be here because he's on a cruise, Shane Edge is going to join us, the, of course, great Gator punter. I'll give him a hard time about how there are no punters going to SEC Media Days. And then on Thursday, I thought this would be good. Now, here's part of the problem I had this with booking guests for this week. Everybody I want to book is pretty much in Dallas, right? You know, or they're on their way to Dallas because of SEC Media Days. And that next week's shows, we'll be able to get anybody we want because they'll all be done with it. And that'll be fun to talk about SEC Media Days with them, whoever we end up getting. But anyway, Sam Cavaris is going to join us on Thursday. And Sammy DeKay, as I like to call him, he has the vote, the Jacksonville vote on the Hall of Fame. So I did want to get him to maybe clarify some things for everybody on why Fred Taylor's not in. Let me tell you what, the Sammy DeKay is as much responsible for Jack Youngblood being in the Hall of Fame as anybody, except Jack Youngblood. He had something to do with it. But Sam is the one who pushed him and kept asking the question, and they finally got him in. So, and they should have been in. Look, Jack Youngblood should definitely be in the NFL Hall of Fame. I'm not sure he should be in the Ring of Honor. He was a great player, Florida, but there are other players just as good, if not better. However, I love Jack Youngblood being there. I've never said anything bad about Jack Youngblood, Emmitt Smith, who were on teams that weren't the best teams sometimes. And you know, Youngblood was on a team that went 9-1-1. But being in the Ring of Honor, I just think other people should be included. And we'll talk about that with Billy Hinson because you guys know how I feel about Lomas Brown not being in. I think he should be in. All right. So that's to tell you what we have coming up. And what we're going to have today is the Process Service of Gainesville Starting Five, which we have every Monday and Thursday here on the show. Thanks to Scott Hart and Process Service of Gainesville for all the advertising they've done with us. And we have appreciated them very much. Okay, so SEC Media Days, we said we were going to go heavy on some of that stuff today again. Now on Monday, we'll have it. It won't have started yet. Greg Sankey might have talked, but that'll be. But we'll still break it down what's going on there, and then it's just going to be stories every day, and that's the good thing about Media Days is stories every day coming out, and you got to figure out which ones to write and everything. That's great. Sitting in those cold auditoriums right now. Now I would assume since it's in Arlington, right, that they're going to be in the stadium. I don't know. Since I'm not there, I don't care. But anyway, let's get to our starting five, and let's start with the number one story, which was a breaking news story. Not breaking, but it was a news story just literally, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes after we got done on Monday. So it was kind of, well, I got to wait till Thursday to talk about it. But who Florida is taking to Dallas, Fort Worth / Arlington / there's like a million suburbs out there. And I got to say this, I do like that area. I like Dallas. The hotel they're staying at is one of my favorite hotels, the Omni. It's a greatest sports bar I think I've ever been in. It had multiple TVs. I mean, everywhere. You couldn't look around and not see the games you wanted to watch, and all kinds of really cool games to play. A lot of pool. They had the pool cues in like a cross, so when you went, you had to disrupt it and you felt bad about it. But it was, anyway, That's not the point. I don't know what the point is, but all right. So Graham Mertz, no surprise there. He is the leader of the offense. Montrell Johnson Jr., who may be the best player in the offense, and Shamar James, who not a big shock there. I mean, Shamar's got to have a big year. I mean, they got to be way better at linebacker if they're going to be better at anything. I mean, they've got to. Look, there's only 3 areas they need to improve on defense: defensive line, linebacker, and secondary. Other than that, they're fine, you know. And so, but I mean, you know, Shamar James is a good player, and obviously getting injured last year certainly didn't help him. Interesting to me, 11 quarterbacks are going, which is a lot. And then I stopped to think, I go, well, there are 16 teams. So I don't know that 11 quarterbacks went when it was 12 or even 14. The 5 teams that aren't sending quarterbacks, Tennessee, which you would think Nico Iamoleva would be there, but again, he's a redshirt freshman. I don't know. I think this idea of protecting freshman quarterbacks is kind of stupid. But if you played, you should be able to go. And that's a guy that a lot of people want to talk to. A&M, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, and Kentucky. So the old East dominating there. 4 quarterbacks not going from former, I guess, like we're supposed to call it formerly Twitter is now X. I don't do that. I still call it Twitter. But I guess we should call it formerly in the East. You know, former East team, blah, blah, blah. I'll still keep track of that. And there's 3 sophomores total going, no freshmen. So it's about what the players we thought would go. The only one, the Tennessee quarterback's the one guy that I wish would have gone. But I probably wasn't going to write about South Carolina anyway. Florida doesn't play them this year. That's a good, funny story about that. So after we don't leave when Florida leaves like the local guys do, or not the local guys, but yeah, a lot of local guys leave when Florida would leave. And one year, they had left, and I was going to write about Alabama, and so I wrote about Freddie Millens, who had coming off a big year and was there, and that was a great conversation. So I wrote a whole column about him, and Spurrier called me up, and he goes, "Why are you writing about Freddie Millens? We don't play Alabama this year." Well, they did play Alabama in the championship game, and he hurt them very badly. But so that would have been '99. But it's just funny that he paid that much attention to what's in the paper. He still does today, even though the paper doesn't get delivered anymore. He still pays attention to what's in it. Anyway, all right, let's get to number 2 on our process service of Gainesville starting 5, and those are this is going to be the 4 storylines. I'm looking forward to seeing what the boys write about. I'm not going to be writing about it, but obviously we'll be talking about it. Number 1 is Kalen DeBoer, and can Alabama maintain its elite status? That to me is the biggest story out there. Now, I'm saying this. I'm saying that these are the 4 storylines, not including Texas and Oklahoma, because everybody's going to lose their minds over Texas and Oklahoma, and I'm not. It's just 2 more teams coming into the league. 2 great programs, 2 great, especially Texas and everything, and Oklahoma softball. Look, they're great and everything. We'll get to that in a minute, but other than that, these are the 4 storylines I would want to pursue. DeBoer, and can Alabama stay elite? Number 2 would be coaches on the hot seat, whether they're real or perceived. We all know how that works. We'll see if it's, I mean, obviously, Billy Napier's going to get a lot of questions about his job security. Sam Pittman's going to get a lot of questions about his job security. Clark Lee is going to get a lot of those questions. And there'll probably be a coach that we haven't even thought of that may be out after this year. You never know. You never know how it all goes. So that to me is a big storyline. I know it'll get a lot of attention. Number 3, can Carson Beck win the Heisman? Or really, can the Heisman come from the SEC this year? It obviously did last year. It has a lot of years. We've seen it over and over again. Tebow and, obviously Manziel. And I mean, I don't know what the run is on Heisman's in the last 10 to 12 years, but the SEC has done pretty well. Anyway, Carson Beck, I think, is the number 1 candidate in terms of the SEC goes. and maybe the number one candidate in the country. Doesn't mean he's going to win it. Doesn't mean he's even going to be a contender late in the year. You just never know how things go. But that's going to be, I think, a big storyline. Is Carson Beck ready for this moment, And then is there anybody else who could win the Heisman? Because I think there probably are. I think Quinn Ewers right now would be my pick to win the Heisman. And I'm bullish on Texas. I've got Texas winning the whole thing, winning the national championship, SEC, Quinn Ewers winning the Heisman. We'll see if I'm right on any of that. And then number 4, I'm sorry guys, but storyline is going to be NIL and portal. People are going to write about it. They're going to talk about it. They're going to talk to players about it. They're going to talk to coaches about it. They're going to talk to Greg Sankey about it. It's going to be the big topic, and it is what it is. And maybe you can add in there the $2.7 billion settlement the NCAA has with the players, and they're going to pay them, and they're going to start giving them this distribution, everything. It's crazy. It's a crazy world we live in. And those, to me, are the big 4 storylines. Number 3 on the process service of Gainesville starting 5. Read this story today. There's this movement, and you guys may have heard about it. We may have even talked about it earlier, about shrinking the rosters. And the Power 5 teams especially are pushing towards getting them down in the 100 to 110 range. You go, well, wait a minute, there's only 85 scholarships. Yeah, but then they get a bunch of walk-ons out there. I'm not sure what any of this is accomplishing. Is this the end of walk-ons? Is it the end of red shirts? Because if you're down to 100 players and about 40 of them aren't ready to play, you're going to probably play 60 guys. And I think that was the average number of players in the SEC that played last year. It was about 60 players on every team. So it really shouldn't affect you that much, but you're probably going to take red shirts off guys a little quicker because there's some attrition. You have some issues there in terms of the players that get injured. Now everybody has injuries. There's no doubt about it. So we'll see how that goes. That's an interesting story, and I'm still trying to figure out, because I read an entire story. It was so long that I quit reading it, but it was on ESPN.com. But it's going to be interesting to see if that does happen. So we'll see how that goes, and that'll be a topic of conversation out there, I'm sure. Number 4 on our process service of Gainesville starting 5, preseason All-SEC volleyball came out yesterday, and 2 Gators were on the All-SEC team. I will say this, so the All-SEC team consists of 18 players. That's a little bit too soft, in my opinion. Look, how many players are on the court at one time? 6? I'll give you 8, okay? Because you're going to sub people in and everything. But I'll give you an 8-person All-SEC team. 18 seems to be a lot. But 2 Gators that deserve to be on it made it. Obviously, Kennedy Martin, who's unbelievable, and then Alexis Stuckey, who, of course, missed most of last year with a torn ACL. She comes back and plays at her level and the same level she was playing at, and stuck in Kennedy Martin. They've got a couple of transfers in that are supposed to help, one from UNLV, one from Maryland. They're supposed to help them. They got 6 freshmen in, but most of their team's back. It could be a big year. If you wonder where Florida was picked, and you would probably go, well, they might be 2. Kentucky's really good. Kentucky won it last year, right? No, they are number 2, but not behind Kentucky. Kentucky was 1 point below them at 3. Number 1, of course, Texas, who's won the national championship the last 2 years. This is what I was talking about. I think the impact of Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC, football is the least important of it. Now, for us, it's still the most important. We love football. Football's the most important sport. I get all that. But as far as competition level, I think softball, volleyball. I'm sorry, I blanked there for a minute. Baseball. It'll be a big factor. Basketball, certainly a factor as well. I think those all sports are going to be huge, and how much the additions are going to. And there's going to be a point. Maybe it'll be next year. Well, we didn't even think about it. Texas and Oklahoma coming into the league, because they'll have been in the league for a while. So it's not a big deal. But this year it's going to be a huge deal. And again, Texas and Oklahoma. Now, I will say this, Florida gets Texas at home this year. That will be one of those volleyball matches where people are hanging off the rafters, and I would imagine. That'll be pretty cool. I'm looking for it. It could be like a 1 versus 2 matchup, to be honest with you. If Florida gets off to a good start and Texas does too. I have to look up the date. And again, we got a long way to go before we get to that. But anyway, that is the volleyball take here. And finally, number 5 on our process service of Gainesville starting 5. I went back and checked the latest odds, because we talked about this a little bit the other day, how Miami is still a favorite over Florida, and insults at the Swamp. And there are a lot of insults to the Swamp. Here at Florida's home, 4 of Florida's home games, 2.5-point underdog to Miami, 4-point underdog to Texas A&M. What? All right. LSU 5.5-point underdog. Ole Miss 6.5-point underdog. Those are 4 home games. And they're underdogs at home, where they don't lose very often. And then Tennessee's 10-point favorite now. They got up to double digits. It actually, that line went up from when it first came out. Georgia's 21. It was 19. I think I would jump that bet if I was a bettor. And I'm not going to do it because I'm not a gambler, and then I don't want to get started. Because every vice I have, I tend to take to extremes. But I would bet that 100 times. And then there was one other game. Oh, yeah, FSU is, I think, 12.5-point favorite. So there you got Florida's 7 of its games, at least, is an underdog. Now, obviously, if the Miami line may even come down a little bit more. It came down from, what was it, 5.5 or 6, something like that, to 2.5. We'll see how it all goes. In the end, it doesn't really matter what spreads are. I just find them interesting. And I think you do too. All right, that's going to do it for our process service of Gainesville. Starting 5 here on another duly noted podcast brought to you by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Billy Hinson, great Gator, offensive lineman, of course, member of the Great Wall. And we'll talk about what he's doing now. And also, he really wants this 84 team to be honored. And I agree with him 100%. I think there's a stigma around it. And I think there's people say, nah, let's wait till 50 years. Maybe nobody will remember that they were on probation. Look, they were, but you can't blame all the players for that. Not all of them took something, you know. I know Neil Anderson didn't. We've had him on. We've talked about that. Anyway, so we'll have Billy on, and just after we have these great commercials here on another duly noted podcast.
Process Service of Gainesville offers a rapid turnaround on affidavits of service for Gator lawyers locally and nationwide. Our friend Scott Hart offers immediate responses on status requests and is a member of NAPS and FAPS. And he has been a part of the community for almost 2 decades. Need service? Call Process Service of Gainesville at 407-697-9592 or email shartgators, that's G8TR, at yahoo.com. And make sure you ask about the paralegal legal secretary bonus program.
Adams Rib Company has been a staple of Gainesville for more than a decade and a staple of the Dooley house ever since Kelsey's teeth came in. The first time I walked into Adams, I told my daughter that the green beans are always a test of a great barbecue restaurant, and they were perfect. You know about the ribs that melt in your mouth, and my favorite, the turkey plate. But be sure to go in on Fridays for Nana's Fish Nuggets. They will melt in your mouth. Adams Rib Co., a Gainesville great.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, 2 things haven't. Our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured.
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
And our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Okay, welcome back to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. And it's a great pleasure to bring on one of the great players in Florida history, Billy Hinson, of course, member of the Great Wall, back in 1984. I was going to ask you, Billy, because I know you started playing in 82. Were you part of that that game against USC? I mean, were you playing on the offensive line then?
Oh, yeah, when it was 200 degrees at 1 o'clock and the folks from Southern Cal just checked out about the third quarter. Oh, yeah, I was there.
Well, it's funny because I remember asking when I was doing a book, I asked Wilbur Marshall about the victory lap that Charlie Pell took, and he said, I wanted no part of that. All I wanted to do was get in the locker room.
Yeah, it was hot, man. The turf puts about 20 degrees higher than it normally would be anyway on the natural turf. So, man, it was a hot day.
Yeah,
good for us.
Guys they'd hit and burn themselves on the turf. That turf was brutal too, and I'm sure you were happy when Coach Spurrier pulled it out.
Yeah, my knees still feel it today after 40 plus years.
Well, I mean, you were part of the Great Wall, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, Billy is now the director of the Amanda Ranch, which is a great cause. Tell the people a little bit about it. I know you help people that are lost and going through a tough time and giving them a little vacation. Sure.
It's called Amanda Ranch. Very unique. It has some similarities to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. We go to the next step. When someone has a loss or a tragedy in their life, we send them out to a ranch out in the Four Corners area of New Mexico, and just kind of let them put their grief and sorrow on hold for a little bit, enjoy all the beautiful things that are provided out southwest, and of course the mountains, the Rocky National Park, and the Grand Canyon. In fact, we're taking a family out there. My wife and I leave tomorrow. That's going through a really hard time, so we're excited about it. It's very new and unique. At the same time, we help a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great cause. So let's talk a little bit about the Great Wall, and I know you want to get a little more recognition for it. 40 years it's been, which is a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me feel old, because I was covering that team. But I mean, this is a part of Florida history that certainly cannot be ignored and should be celebrated.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, facts are facts. The old saying, "Wait till next year," was invented by us. Us old Gators, we know that because for so many years we were that close to winning championships. We never did. In 1984, that all came together. We did have the probation, the investigation, all that was over our heads. But in my 4 years, we never came together as a team as we did that year. And when we won 9 straight, we did lost the opener against Miami, then tied LSU, and then we won 9 straight. And in the year, we were undefeated. The first Florida that won the SEC on the field, and you can't deny that. That we won that, and it was a wonderful thing. We finally beat Kentucky in Lexington, a very cold day, and then flew back. And we found out that we were still undefeated, and LSU lost, and we were champs. So.
Yeah, the story I always hear is that the plane flew over the stadium because the fans were all in there and kind of dipped over so everybody could look out the window and see it.
It was crazy. It happened, and I don't know how many fans were there. I can't remember, so long ago, but there was a lot, and we did get some recognition when we came back off that game. So it was a wonderful time to experience. But
yeah, no, and I think that if you remember, and I'm sure you do. Living in Fleming Island like you do, you've probably been to a lot of games. But back in the day, for a while there, they wanted to put the champions up there, and Spurrier was insistent that they include the '90 team, and that meant they had to include '84 and '85. And then, of course, when Spurrier left, they took them all down.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we understand that rules are rules, and that's what. But it's a different world nowadays. I told you before, Pat. I mean, NIL changed everything, and so if we believe that and we're accepted in our society, in our arena of college athletes, we have to recognize what happened. And we won the SEC, and we did have a consolation prize. We could have gone to the Sugar Bowl that year and probably won the national championship.
Right.
Still finished 3rd in the nation that year. And that was the year that BYU won the national championship, and then you go to New Year's Day Bowl. I think they beat an 8-4 Michigan game in the Holiday Bowl,
Right.
And so the consolation was, hey, we'll you can't go to a Sugar Bowl, but you can still win the championship or still have the championship. Of course, that was taken away. I was with the Broncos at the time, 1985. The presidents came together and voted to take that away from us. But it's like you said, you can't deny it. We were undefeated in the SEC in the first time it ever happened in Florida history. So that's all we're asking.
Yeah, led by Tennessee, by the way. That they're the ones who led.
Yeah, we haven't forgotten that either.
Maybe that's why Tennessee can't beat Florida anymore. I think that it's just like being buried in an Indian burial ground or something, or building over it. But and that's the thing, everybody talks about, and I'm sure your mind wanders every once in a while to NIL and how much money you guys could have made on it with the great wall, with the great nickname and everything.
Yeah, and that season, if you go really look at it, it was a great team. Yeah. I mean, I don't know the number of first-round picks we had, and our whole entire offensive line was drafted. I was the 5th round, I think.
All 3 tailbacks were.
Yeah, all 3 were first round, and then on the defensive side, there was a ton of high draft picks there. So we had a great team. But what really prompted this, Pat, I tell you, I went to a teammate's funeral in February, Alonzo Johnson, and I was driving back from Panama City after that funeral, and I got to thinking, we haven't seen these players in 40 years. A lot of them never got any recognition at all for the first SEC championship in Florida history. Great things happened after that. Coach Spurrier and of course Coach Meyer. Wonderful legacy we have. At the same time, we think it kind of started with us, and so I was driving back. What really prompted me to kind of get our guys together is we may not have another chance. 10 years, we may not all be here. So we're just trying to get just a few moments of recognition for the team, and that's all we're asking. And we're going to have a get together reunion this fall, but we'd like to have it on the field for just a few minutes if we could. Yeah,
well, you've already lost one of those members of the wall, and Jeff Zimmerman, and that.
I forgot about Jeff. Yeah, Jeff happened this past March. He sure did.
Yeah, it's hard. But that's the thing when we talk about NIL and how things have changed and everything, and so they, everybody's talking about, well, Reggie Bush needs to get his Heisman back. I'm like, well, then Lomas Brown needs to go up on the wall. I mean, I have been the biggest supporter of adding Lomas to that wall, but the only way if he gets put into the NFL Hall of Fame, that has nothing to do with what he did in college. Nothing to do with it. And it bothers me that they can't see through that.
Yeah. Well, it's the way we live today. I think college sports is going in a different direction. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But I mean, the facts are facts, and there is a lot more offered to guys to play. I've been a lifetime Gator. You see on the back of my wall, it's my wife did this. It's a Gator room that I have. We just think it's time just to give what was due to us, and the facts are the facts. But it is a different world nowadays, no doubt, in college sports.
Yeah, what is the game you got? 27-17. Is that FSU?
That is the last game I ever played. My wife found all this stuff was in the attic. She surprised me one business trip. I came back. She did all this. That's the game that we last game I ever played in Florida was against FSU in Tallahassee. So very memorable.
Well, I remember the game. I was actually going to cover an NFL game that day, and I landed, and I'm on the plane while the game's being played, and I called the paper and disguised my voice. It goes, who won the Florida State game? I didn't want them to know I cared that much, they told me to score, and I was like, yes.
Yeah.
So that was a great win as well. By the way, where is Phil Bromley now?
So Phil is up in Michigan. He does all their film crew. He's responsible for that, all their audio and.
I knew he was up there at one point. I didn't know he was.
Yeah. He's been there for many years now. Of course, Lomas is up in. He does a play-by-play for the Detroit. Spoke to him. He would also like to come down. We spoke to a lot of players. There's a lot of guys who have reached out after we kind of start this little exercise of getting back together for a 40-year reunion. And of course, Jeff's gone, but Phil's up there, and so is Lomas.
Yeah, and Crawford Kerr. I know. I don't know if did those shut down the Kerr's wing houses?
He sold them all off.
Sold them? Yeah.
Crawford's a very savvy businessman.
Yeah.
He's done very well in some of his enterprises that he's done. I just spoke to him recently. I think he's up in Utah doing something, but he still lives here in Florida.
Yeah, and he also he's the guy who came in and said that you guys were just a bunch of pebbles until he got there, right? And that's a great wall.
Yeah, it was. I think that whole squad. In fact, I was watching a video of one of the games recently, just trying to get my mind back into the groove of what happened. But I think we were playing Auburn or Georgia. But and I forgot about this. The whole squad back then can bench over 400 pounds, which today is nothing. But back then, it was something, and we all did that. So.
Well, that is good. I mean, again, back in those days, you didn't have a bunch of 300-pound linemen. And
No, we didn't.
Think about Jeff Zimmerman was like 320, and he was considered this massive offensive guard. But for you to play next to Lomas had to be a thrill too.
Yeah, Lomas was a great player, man. We played 2 years together side by side, and it was a great experience. I'm glad he's got everything that he deserved, because he was a great player.
Well, he didn't have everything yet, because I want him on that wall.
Yeah, I agree. I think he deserves it for sure.
Well, he's the best lineman I ever saw play. That should be enough to get you on the wall, right?
Yeah, I think Lomas started. He did. Yeah, he started as a freshman, and he was a 4-year starter. I remember when he started, because we came in together, and he started like the third game of that 81 season, and then started 4 years after that. So he definitely deserves that for sure.
Yeah, he's been on the podcast a couple of times. He's a great guy, and I just remember it all. What was that like for you guys? Because during that time, you were constantly getting peppered by questions, not about how good you were, but about the investigation and about the NCAA and everything. And that had to be weigh on you guys. And I'm a big believer that the best thing that happened to that team, as much as Charlie Pell, I love Charlie Pell and loved him till the day he died, and talked to him right before he passed away. But I think they needed Galen Hall to be the head coach, so that because Charlie coached tight. He coached tight, and Galen goes, "Hey, we'll throw it from our own end zone from the 3-yard line. We'll throw the deep ball."
Yeah, it's no doubt that was a lot of adversity as a team. That's, I think, what really put us together, because we were never close as we were until that all happened. Kind of us against the world. And the team, even this team, the 2024 team, has to come together. At some point, when that happens, it's not a magical thing. It just happens. And we did that. Really, after that Miami game, we lost. And but then of course, Coach Pell was fired the third game, and then Galen took over, and we really came together then and won 9 straight. So it was somewhat refreshing for us old guys, because we appreciate all that Coach Pell did, but it was different, and it was a different atmosphere, and we just went out and played, and that's all we did. And so it was very different. The practices were different. Of course, the game time was different, and Coach Hall had definitely a more relaxed persona than Coach Pell did. Coach Pell was old school, man. Coach Bryant the whole way. That's all he knew. That's all he thought. But it was definitely different. And I think anytime a team comes together like that, it's a wonderful thing to be in that locker room. And that's one thing I miss. What again, my point saying earlier, driving back from that funeral, one of my teammates, I mean, this is one of our brothers, that I probably should have done more to help me personally. And so I said, hey, let's do something so we can let's keep the team together. Someone is having an issue. Alonzo made some bad choices. It is what it is. His family would say that. But at the same time, we need to help each other. And we're not going to be here very, very long. So, it was a wonderful season and a wonderful time to be a Gator that particular year.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a lot of fun to cover that team too, because they were just, to me, everybody talks about the Georgia game, but the Auburn game was the one for me. I thought Auburn would come in and, okay, this will be different, but you guys just bludgeoned them.
Yeah, Bo Jackson was still playing there.
Yeah. Although he pulled himself out of a couple of games, but.
Yeah, I think he was hurt, if I recall. It goes back a ways, Pat.
That's right. These are back in the olden times. Back when did we wear face masks back in those days? I can't remember.
Yeah, we took our helmet and folded it up and put it in our pocket when we left the field. You know, that's what it was. That's what I tell my kids.
Billy Hinson coming to you on the Big Mills Cheesesteaks Zoom line, and it's time for us to play Yes, No, Way, or Maybe. 3 questions for Billy Hinson, brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak Street Dining. Done the right way. Go in there and tell them you watched or listened to this podcast, and you get free fries with your order at Big Mills Cheesesteak. All right. Yes, No, Way, or Maybe. Number 1, Billy Hinson, the Great Wall would hold up in today's game. Now, you guys are a little older, 40 years older, but no, I'm talking about the 84 Great Wall would hold up right now.
Maybe.
Because you guys really weren't that. I mean, Bromley was only like 260, right?
Yeah, he was 260, and the size today, it would be tough. But I would say maybe, because we had a lot of talent there, no doubt.
Yeah,
we were smart.
I mean, Lomas Brown's still going to block people, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I think we could. We could hurt some people for a little bit. I don't know if it'll last the whole game, but I would put a maybe on that one.
Okay, that's a good one. All right, number 2, when you guys were players here, the Great Wall, Crawford Kerr would win every chicken wing contest you had.
Absolutely. Yes.
He had an affection for him even back then, right?
He did, man. He ate him like crazy.
Who was the biggest eater on that team?
Phil Bromley.
Oh, really?
Phil had to eat because he came in light. So they put him on a diet for him to increase his weight. And Phil would eat 6 meals a day. And I don't know the name of here in Gainesville. There was a steakhouse where it had a 6-pound steak. And I don't know how long, I'm sure it's been on business for years. But if you gave that steak, if you consumed it all in a certain time period, you get it free. Phil made records. In fact, they asked Phil, if you can, just stay out of the premises. I mean, he did that. I mean, it was like amazing. None of us could do it, but Phil did it like with heartbeat and said, give me another one,
Oh, so yeah. That's good. I mean, it's good when people tell you to gain weight. I'm usually being told the other thing, but yeah. And finally on Yes, No, Where, or Maybe, you know where the championship trophy is.
No idea.
No, and that's the thing. To me, it's like the Holy Grail. I know they have it somewhere there, and it's probably in a corner office, and there's a light shining down on it. But nobody will tell me where it is. But it's still on the premises at Florida.
I don't think they ever gave it back.
They never gave it back.
So that trophy is there somewhere. And I agree. I never thought of that, but it's there somewhere. So
I think we'll put on the fedoras and go looking for it when you get down here today. Phil. I had Phil Bromley on my mind thinking about that steak. Billy, thanks so much for joining us. And yeah, I'm with you. I think this team needs to be, 40-year anniversary of one of the great teams. And again, with a freshman walk-on quarterback and still won 9 games. And Kerwin, of course, has been on this podcast many times, but you guys deserve to be recognized. And like I said, I'm going to keep pushing this. Lomas needs to be on that wall. You need him on that wall.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Pat. We appreciate your efforts, and go Gators. Let's have a great year this year.
Good luck with the Amanda Ranch too.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll be back with more of another Duly Noted podcast brought to you by Titan MRI right after this message.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Fight Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Another Duly Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Okay, welcome back to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Appreciate Billy Hinson for coming on. Fun talking to him. And I mean, I covered him when he was a player, but I would kind of come to some games. I didn't do the Gators exclusively when I was at the Times Union, but I did do a few games, and I was definitely at some of the better games of that year. I will say this: I was not at the '84 game when they beat Georgia. I was, of all things, in Columbia, South Carolina, covering the South Carolina Florida State game. That was a great South Carolina team. That was a team that only lost one game. That they lost to Navy, and it kept them out of a national championship bid. And that was like their best team. But anyway, so I'm covering that game, and South Carolina beat the crap out of them. Beat them so bad that in the locker room afterwards, and this is what I wrote about, everybody was getting stitches. Guys are getting stitches in their chin and their arm and their legs. They got beat up pretty bad in that game. Anyway, let's get to our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Of course, you know Hesser and Kipke is a Gainesville law firm specializing in the areas of family law and workers' compensation. If you're a loyal listener of this show, you know who we are by now. If not, Google the firm, check out the reviews, and hear what our clients have to say. Ken and Jennifer can be reached 24/7 via call or text at 352-339-9920, 352-339-9920, Hesser and Kipke. We appreciate them so much for being a loyal sponsor. Let's start off with the number one story on 3 things, and that is that men's soccer fired their coach. I got to look at his name, Greg Burkhalter, is that his name? I don't even know. I don't pay attention to soccer. I don't pay attention to the Copa Cup and all this stuff. But hey, look, I get that people love it, and I get that people are sick of the U.S. not being good in soccer. We've got enough great athletes over here. We should be better. But again, not all of them. It's not the biggest sport in the world. And you would think it is the biggest sport in the world. It's not the biggest sport here. In fact, it'd be like, I would put it in the 7th, maybe. Football, college football, NFL, NBA, college basketball, Major League Baseball. Maybe the WNBA's jumped ahead of it. I don't know. Anyway, but anyway, they've got to find a good coach, and that they're already talking about getting somebody from across the pond to come over here and straighten everybody out. And all right. We'll see what happens, but it's a significant story for soccer fans. I'll leave it at that. All right, number 2 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. You know, I was all braggy on Monday about my Braves, and then they won the next 2 games at Arizona, and I was tight games, and then they lost last night. But now the Phils, who my plan was the Braves would go in and play really well against the Diamondbacks, so they're on a roll, and the Phillies having to play the Dodgers, they're going to be in trouble. So Tuesday night, I go, oh, let me check on that game. I look at it, it's 11-1. I go, oh, Phillies are killing them. They beat them again last night. So now the lead's back up to 8.5, and I was hoping to whittle away at it, but maybe the Phillies are just too good for that to happen. I give them credit that it's a really good baseball team. And the Braves are just kind of plugging away there with what they have. You know, Chris Sale obviously has been great. We'll see if he starts the All-Star. Oh, he's not going to start the All-Star game because he's going to pitch Sunday. I think Jeff told me that. Yeah. So anyway, Phillies may just be too good. And I said this, I got to say, Monday when I was bragging, hey, we can cut the lead a little bit. I wasn't saying I thought the Braves were going to catch them. I even said that. I said, I think the Phillies are too good. However, you have hope. The hope's not as good as it was. Now, again, they lost one game, the Braves did. The trouble was Philly didn't lose one game during that time. They need to lose some. Finally, number 3 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things, and this was something, again, that happened late Monday, and not in time for our podcast, so I wanted to bring it up, though, and that is Keegan Bradley being named the Ryder Cup captain. And my first reaction was, that's all we can do? That's the best we can do is Keegan Bradley? Now, I'm not a big Keegan Bradley fan, and apparently neither are a lot of the players. He's not one of the more popular guys on tour for whatever reason. I don't really know him. I've never met him. I've never talked to him. I watch him on TV. He's got a weird tics and everything, but I don't know. I don't know why they would pick him. Feels like there are other people they could go to, but whatever. We'll probably lose anyway. It's in New York, right? It's at Bethpage, I think. And so that would be in 2 years, or no, 1 year. It'll be next year. Yeah, I'll still be watching it. I can promise you that. But there's a lot of people questioning this move. Golf, people that know golf better than I do. Again, I'm not around Keegan Bradley, but the guys who are around him and who cover him and talk to other players about him, he's not the most popular guy on tour. And I don't know why you would go with somebody like that. But anyway, he's the captain. Go captain, my captain. So we'll see what happens with the Ryder Cup. And of course, the President's Cup coming up pretty soon. I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. I love those matches like that. I think they should play the Ryder Cup every year, personally. I really do. All right, that is our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. And we appreciate Hesser and Kipke. Let's get to our Adams Ribco Gator of the Week. Oh, today's Thursday. I was thinking today was Friday, and I would go get the Nana's fish bites, the fish nuggets. They are the awesomest. That's not a word. You get them, and they just melt in your mouth, and they're tasty. Oh, they're great. But of course, it's known for the barbecue and the ribs, and I may just go get ribs today. I think that's a good plan, Pat. Good plan. All right, our Adams Ribco Gator of the Week. We got a lot of them. In fact, we have 121 of them. 121 Florida athletes were named to the first-year SEC all-academic squad. Now, we never talk about academics here. There are people that say, well, nope, it's going to get to a point where they don't even have to go to school. And maybe that does happen. But as long as they're going to school and as long as they're trying their best and doing a good job, and Florida's softball team, Corby Otis made it. Jocelyn Erickson I think she was named the Scholar Athlete of the Year for softball. Eugene Wilson is on the list. Trey Wilson, give him a lot of credit for getting that done. For the academic year, Florida had 433 people on the SEC Academic Honor Roll. Now, I know that a lot of these people are taking online classes, and they're probably football players. I know some of them are given easier stuff to do, or there's certain majors that you need to take because it's where it can be easy. But at least they're getting schoolwork done. And at this point, with what we're dealing with NIL and everything, I applaud you for doing that. You're heading towards graduation, and that's important. And you'll find out how important it is when you're not playing pro ball. Eugene Wilson might be playing pro ball. But anyway, so congratulations to all of them, all 121 who are on the first year. Now, the first year means so that's why Erickson and Otis, they're transfers. So they're first year players, or a freshman, if you were a freshman. And I guess, that's where, for Trey Wilson, that's how that works out. So anyway, so they are our Adams Ribco Gators of the Week, and salute you and appreciate you. All right, let us move on to our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. I got to go. Oh, by the way, Jason Wilson, who won the last time we polled, lives out in Virginia now. I mailed your stuff yesterday. You should get it tomorrow, Friday. I'm sorry it took so long, but obviously I was out with COVID for a while, so I couldn't get to the post office. But Jason, your stuff is en route. A signed copy of my book, Game of My Life, and $25 at Leonardo's. Now I do need to go by and see Kyle. Here's two reasons. One, Parmesan sandwich. I love them. The chicken parm is just unbelievable. It's called the Dooley, by the way, on the menu. And then two, I got to get some more gift certificates. So we've run out. But the good thing is I pay for half, he pays for half. We end up with a bunch of them so we can give them away, and we'll continue to do that. In fact, the next winner will get a copy of Patrick Young's book signed, Sit to Rise, and $25 at Leonardo's. Now, we're not going to be doing a poll anytime real soon, but it's not that far away. I'm going to try to give you another women's basketball game, guys. I know that you flunked last week or last time we did it. But this time we're going to give you a spread, so maybe it'll make a difference. Phoenix -2 at Indiana Fever, of course. It's got to be Caitlin Clark's team, right? That's Friday night, by the way. Friday at 7:30. So you got to have your pick in before 7:30 Friday. Phoenix -2 at Indiana is our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick pick. All right, appreciate that. All right, let's get to this, that, and the other. Brought to you, of course, by Ballyhoo Grill, where Karen and I will be dining tonight. We're trying to not eat out as much because we had a run there. We were eating out almost daily, and then we went on a vacation. So we're trying to pick a day. Let's go then during the middle of the week. So today is the day. I'm excited. I can't wait. Can't wait to see my good friend Bill Reichert too. All right, so this, that, and the other. I may be getting in trouble for some of this, but I'm going to still do it. All right, this is it. Before this academic year started, I had no idea who Parker Valby was. Again, I don't follow cross country that much, but when she won the SEC, I was excited. I think she was the SEC or the Adams Ripco Gator of the Week like 4 times last year. And I just got excited because Florida's never had this cross-country runner that could win. And then she wins the NCAAs. And I'm like, what in the world? Where did she come from? I need to talk to her. I need to do an interview with her. And that's that. And that is that she was not made available and never really given a reason. But she was not only not made available to me, she was not made available to anybody, including the in-house publication over there. So, I mean, I was going to write it for the alumni newsletter, which you would think would be good. And I know that the people over there in the at Florida Gators couldn't talk to her. So the only way you got an interview was she was interviewed on the site, and you had to take her quotes. And I was like, I don't understand it. She can't. What is wrong with her? And some people were saying weird things about her, like there's something wrong with her and everything. I'm like, seems okay to me. I don't know. So the other, I'm sorry, is that I've talked to people, and actually my wife talked to somebody who she knows, and it's Parker Valby's just quirky. She's different. There's nothing wrong with that. When she says after she qualifies for the Olympics, I can't wait to get to Paris and see some goats. I'm like, yeah, you're different, man. But what's wrong with that? We love quirky. We love people that say weird things. And they need to look, she's going to get some exposure in these Olympics. You better be ready for it. And maybe I don't know what she says, but I'm a fan of Parker Valby's. And I think that I've heard a lot of negativity about her, and I think it's been unfair, and I'm not going to allow it anymore. How about that? Me and Parker are in this together. All right, that is this, that, and the other, brought to you by Ironwood, by, of course, Darshackow Insurance, and by Ironwood Golf Course, where I played yesterday. I got 12 holes in yesterday. Yeah, I was having fun. All right, let us wrap it up with our Swamp Restaurant games of the weekend. Obviously, Swamp Restaurant is a place to go to watch them. There's not a ton going on this weekend, but there's enough. Wimbledon will be going on. Again, you just got to turn it on. It's on all the time. And we'll be down to the finals. So I guess the final women is Saturday and the final men is Sunday. I think that's the way it works. So you got that going on. Saturday, you also have some good baseball. 4:05 on Fox Sports 1. The Yankees at the Orioles. Of course, those are the two teams atop that division. And then Atlanta at San Diego at 7:15 on Fox. Those are the Saturday games. Now, watch them because there's no Sunday night baseball because of the All-Star game. All the games will be over by 7 o'clock and they get everybody out, and so they don't have to worry about it. But the draft will be Sunday, and that'll be something to watch. It starts at 5, but who knows? When they say it starts at 5, they may make the first pick at 6. They got to preview everything. Every sport should have a 2-minute preview, and that's it. Get out. Like when they come to you, there's an SEC game. Let's just say Tennessee and Georgia are playing, and they come in. Yeah, let's preview this game. Let's talk about this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I already know everything I need to know about them. Just play the game. Let me watch it. That's my feeling, and I'm sticking to it. All right, Sunday, you also have an Indiana game. The Fever playing at Miami at 4 o'clock on ESPN. So they got to make a quick turnaround. Is it Miami? No, it's Minnesota. God, I didn't think there was a team in Miami. Minnesota, I can't read my writing sometimes. They play at Minnesota. Indiana does at 4 o'clock ESPN. And then the golf this weekend, which should be fun to watch. I hope it is, since last week was not. If you want to get up and watch it, Saturday, 10 to 12 is on the Golf Channel, and then 12 to 3 on CBS. The Scottish Open, the Genesis Scottish Open. I did see where Roy was 5 under. I don't know where he finished up. Davis Thompson, I think, is near the lead again. So it'll be fun. That should be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to it. Sunday, same thing. 10 to 12 on the Golf Channel, 12 to 3 on CBS. I'll be into that, especially on Sunday. I'll be fired up about that. All right, so that's going to do it for today's show. Thanks to Billy Hinson for coming on. Monday, we will, as I said earlier, we'll be joined by Shane Edge. Robbie will probably not come on because he is going on a vacation to West Virginia. So we'll just have Shaner do the yes, no way, or maybes. And then, as I said earlier, on Thursday, Sammy the K will join us. Look forward to him. That's going to do it for the show. We appreciate Zach, as always, for doing a great job of producing and splicing everything together. And appreciate everybody for listening and watching and sponsoring. And like I said, I'm getting ready to get off this and start making a couple of phone calls to check in on people. We'll see if they're going to be interested in being a new sponsor. And we'll see if they do. And if they do, we'll announce it Thursday or Monday or Thursday. All right. All I know is that's going to do it for another Duly Noted podcast. We appreciate all of you out there. Of course, we're presented by Titan MRI, my buddy Joe Calorio, or Jeff Calorio, I can say that. Joe Calorio over there. And of course, we're brought to you by the Meldon Law Gator from the Meldon Law Gator Studios, which I'll be in Monday. Couldn't be in there last Monday, but we'll be in there. And thanks to Jeffrey Meldon for being a major sponsor here, and appreciate everything he does for the community as well. All right, that's going to do it. We'll be back on Monday with Shane Edge. Until then, I am Pat Dooley. I am deep. I am way back, and I am out of here.